Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. She runs a business podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Bridget Hill, who is joining my mission to spread healing and peace to the world. Bridget, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. It's my honor to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I very much appreciate being here.
Thank you so much. So, Bridget, can you share a little bit about your personal story, how you became a healer, and why is that important to you?
Yeah. So throughout my life, God, from a very young age, I always felt different. I felt like I didn't fit in, didn't belong, and so I learned to hide myself a lot. I learned to deny who I was, and then when in my 20s, I was getting divorced and in a severe car accident, and everything that I believed and dreamed or thought about was gone, and I was at ground zero. And it was then that I realized how much I'd been denying of who I was, and that there wasn't anybody outside of me who was going to be able to process what I was feeling and what I was knowing. So I went on a journey of self discovery, of self healing, physically, physically and inside, emotionally, healing the past through different modalities, and then really realizing how many women out there are struggling with feeling like they have to please everybody else and denying who they are, and feeling like they have all these shoulds in their life. So this people pleasing and these shoulds are just loading women down, and their beauty and their light and their special gifts are not being put out into the world as they were meant to be, until around, once the kids leave home in midlife, and all of a sudden they're like, there's this part of me that I sort of remember, but I don't know how to connect back with her and bring her forth. And that's really what I want to help women do, is to experience and re-experience who they are, what their gifts and talents are, and build from a self-love foundation to create the space where they can shine their beauty and their gifts to the world.
I really, really love that. That's so inspiring, and I believe you can connect with so many women around the world because let's be honest, we all go through these phases in our lives. We have a kids, then we dedicate our whole life like kids and household and partners, and there's a very little time for ourselves. And one day we just wake up and say, "Hey, I don't have any time for myself. I just wanna enjoy my life as who I am and love myself for who I am." And I think that's something that is so important in today's world. I would love to ask you a little bit about your lowest point in your life. Can you explain how did you feel and what thoughts you had at that moment when you were at the very lowest point in your life?
So for me, the lowest point in my life was I was 27 years old. I had a 3-year-old son. I was, I'd been a stay-at-home mom, so I'd never worked. I did not have any college education, and I was getting divorced. My ex came out of the closet. He realized that he was denying who he was, being in this relationship, that he was really gay. And there was no there was no anger or anything around this. It was just, this was who he was. And at the same time, I grew up believing that a woman grows up, gets married, has kids, they stay together forever. So everything I believed and thought about was shattered. I had no beliefs or hopes or dreams left, because it was all taken away. Everything I thought my life would be just vanished. And then at the same time, I was in a horrific car accident that had me laid up for a few months. And then there was lots of complications with workers' comp because it was a work happened at during working for Mary Maids, and my car was I was hit on the passenger side at 50 miles an hour by a van. So it punctured my lung. I couldn't breathe. I was in the hospital. I was in a lot of pain, and they because it punctured in and I couldn't breathe very well. They didn't go in and fix anything. They just sort of let it heal on its own. So I'm in the process of moving out of the house that I bought with my ex. I have this 3-year-old little boy. I move in with back in with my parents. I mean, thank God they were in the same state as me. And I don't have a job. I don't have income coming in, and I have no skills and talents. I am at ground zero. I remember it was Christmas time, and I remember sitting in the dark watching the Christmas lights and just thinking, all I want to do is hide. There is nothing left of me. There's nothing left of my hopes and my dreams. And the only reason, that I kept getting up every day was because my little boy had to, needed his mom and had to, get to, at the time it was Head Start. And so that was my lowest point. I was down to ground zero. I had nothing left emotionally, physically, financially. I had nothing.
I I'm I'm truly sorry you had to go through that, but sometimes I think the universe puts us on the path that we don't understand, and we always ask ourselves, why me? What did I do to you to punish me like that? But only when we turn back, we see the benefits and
Mm-hmm.
how that helped us to become who we are today. And actually, your experience helps you help other women reconnect with themselves, build confidence, and your story is such an inspirational story for so many women and so many moms, single moms out there. And I think your mission is really just a beautiful mission to help other women. And I truly believe they can associate with the story you shared right now. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think that's a really, really important. The moment when you lost everything and you lost also your self-confidence, you lost everything what you had and what you believed about the world, about everything. What were the initial steps you took to rebuild yourself?
So the first step, because I had lost my identity. I had tied my identity to being a mom, being a wife. That was me. That was all there was of me. So since I had no identity anymore, what the first thing I had to do is I went back inside myself, and I took time to be just with me and figure out who that was. And it's through processes of journaling.
Hmm.
So I did lots of journaling, like when I was in my strongest emotions, I would write out what was showing up and how I was feeling and what was coming up. Also getting back into nature and connecting to my spiritual connection, my divine connection, and grounding myself and feeling that I wasn't alone, because it was a very lonely time, and I did feel absolutely utterly alone, like there was nobody out there who understood. And even if I was surrounded by tons of people, I still felt absolutely alone. So it was about connecting back to me, and then a process of remembering the good parts of me and what, even as a child or as a teenager, were the things that I really enjoyed, and starting to just do the little things that I enjoyed. So my family grew up playing sports together. There was 5 of us, and we were really into ping pong or table tennis. And so, I got back into doing that more. My family would go hiking every weekend. I got back into doing that. So it was adding back in the little parts that I could remember were things that I enjoyed, that were part of me, to rebuild the structure and foundation. And the biggest part was the biggest part was forgiving myself, because as much as I didn't do anything wrong, I absolutely blamed myself for letting myself have hopes and dreams and then being broken by them not happening. And so I went through a process of forgiveness. There's a letter that I do, even now I'll reuse it, and I use with clients, and it's a forgiveness letter that I learned from Jack Canfield. And I will use that letter and I use that letter to start the healing process through forgiveness, which was huge even though I didn't do anything wrong per se, I needed to forgive myself, because my inner critic and my critical voice, that little voice saying, you're wrong, you're bad, you're no good, was the one I needed to silence. And doing forgiveness helped silence that.
Wow. Uh, Thank you so much for sharing that. I truly believe that self-forgiving is one of the keys to healing. And it takes time, it takes a lot of effort, because the hardest emotions we ever have is emotions about ourselves and what happened to us. And we feel, of course, emotionally attached to every single event. And of course, we blame ourselves for everything, because this is the way how we learned. But I think I also can agree with that, because for me, the key to my healing was just forgiving myself for everything, like, and forgiving also people around me. Like, my story was I grew up in war, and there's a lot of things you have to forgive, even though it's hard, but it was the most beautiful, the most liberational moment of my life when I didn't felt what I felt before. And I felt like I got the wings to fly. And that was for me the liberation. And I can only imagine how that was for you, like
Yeah.
to forgive yourself and get confidence and hope to move forward.
Yeah.
That's really huge.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you about the methodologies, and or did you do any special like courses, therapies? What kind of methodologies did you use to help yourself further?
So for me, um, one thing that I know is music. So music is a huge therapy that I use. I also sing, so I used my voice and vocal cords, because, moving the energies through the nervous system that are stuck in there is all about movement. So and it was about using my talents. So music as a healing modality, singing, and then also body movement in and of itself, just exercising and getting okay. So I love Richard Simmons' Sweatin' to the Oldies, and I still have the DVDs, and getting back into that and moving my body. And at the time I was also healing my body, so rebuilding my strength was part of it. Going through just physical therapy to get parts of my body back to where they was a big part. And living with daily pain was hard. And I also learned breathing and meditation during that time. And that really helped, because I could breathe into the pain and then blow it out. And it really did help relieve the pain. Um, so all of those were starting points. And as I moved forward in life, I've learned other modalities, including RIM, which is by Dr. Deb Sandella, which is regenerating images in memory. I use that to help. Not all, I've had it done myself, and then I use that with my clients to really help them move forward and stop living the past and old patterns and old thinking ways of thinking. So I do that. There's so much that I use, including just listening to inspirational or motivational things. I would, oh God, At that point in time, I would grab onto anything that would help to put positive feelings into my body and my brain. So it was grabbing anything that I could find. And at the time, there wasn't this huge internet and everything to go to. So at the time, it was old tapes and CDs and things like that, and that I would just listen to and put myself into a space of peace. It would getting back to and getting to nature and learning about my connection with nature and how that would help me release and then feel more sturdy. And it slowly, by doing all of these things, it was a building of trust back in myself. And obviously journaling, absolutely believe in journaling. So it's all those things were all starting points for all the different tools and things that I use now, even through, like my coaching training was CTI. I learned so many tools that are helpful, and I continue to learn all the time. I'm always involved with another training or another something, because I feel like the more I better myself, the more I can help with whatever a person comes to me with.
Yeah, I agree with that because very often people have different kind of problems and you cannot just use one size fits all.
No.
And we also notice that the tools that sometimes help one person cannot help another person because they are maybe not open for that, they are not the best tools for them. And I just love how you um, use your time to really educate yourself further to help your clients even much better. Can you just explain for people what is CTA? Because you use that and we want to make sure that everybody understands what that is.
So CTI is Coaches Training Institute, and that is a coach training program where it's coactive coaching is what it's called, and you go through a very intensive first um, five sessions of 3-day weekends, and then after that you go through a year-long program to get certified as a coactive coach. And I am trained as a coactive coach, and it's really about how to be in that space and hold the space for another person to be able to heal, to be able to express, and to be able to find their way through the stuff that they've been to and into a place of being able to let go and move forward and find what's next for themselves. And always, as a coach, we don't tell anybody, oh, do this or don't do that, or we are a partner with this person to walk beside them as they go on their journey, and provide tips and tools. And what I want is when a client comes to me, it's all about giving them the tips and tools so that they can stand on their own, and being with them until they feel comfortable enough to use them on their own. So I don't have people come to me as a client so that they can cling to me for life and rely on me. I want them to stand strong in themselves. And I love CTI's main theme was about seeing the client as naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. They're not broken. None of my clients are broken. There is nothing that's just bad or wrong. It's just life covers us up with stuff, and through the coaching process we uncover and get back to their naturally creative and resourceful whole self, so that they can thrive and flourish and have a wonderful life.
Um, there are a couple of things that you mentioned that I think they are really, really important. First of all, nobody's broken. And I truly believe in that. We are not broken. We perceive ourselves as broken because some bad things happen to us, but we are completely fine. We just need to let that go and rediscover who we are and find love within ourselves. And I think that's a really beautiful what you said. And there's another thing that you said. You want you want your clients to be capable of doing their own healing, and you're just walking beside them. And I truly believe that healing is co-creation, because I truly believe that healers, we teach them the tools, but it's up to them to use them. And
Mhm.
healing is co-creation process. Like we do more like emotional support as they evolve, and that's the biggest impact that healer have, because um we can only do certain things, and it's up to the other person to do some other, like to accept healing, to first start working on themselves, because they heal themselves. We hold their hands.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's the truth. Like, we can do whatever we want, but they need to accept it, and they need to start and choose, I want to be healed. And that's something that you beautifully said. And um, I want to talk a little bit about transformations that you witness with your clients.
Mhm.
Can you share some of stories from your clients? You don't have to mention name. We just want to hear the stories. What are the biggest transformations your clients have
Mm.
had using your tools?
Yeah. So, I I have recently seen a lot of transformation, and it's quick. It's in, 4 sessions, 4 weeks. And so one client, she came to me, and she was very frustrated and upset because she kept trying to do all the right things, because she wanted to adopt a baby, and they were going through all of the processes and everything, and they had everything right, and it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening, and they kept sending them foster kids, and that wasn't what she wanted. She wanted a baby to adopt, and she was frustrated, felt like it was never going to happen. And through a process of 4 coaching sessions, starting with changing how she was talking and thinking, so her mindset and her self talk, or what I also like to call your you talk. Like, you talk to yourself all the time, your you talk. And so we focused on that first. We added in visualization and used some of that, and then um to see how what she wanted coming into her life. And then additionally, so it wasn't just the mind, the body, the spirit, but when we added in the environment and created a space within her house that was ready for this child to come in, and within the 4, I think it was like just after we finished our session, they called her with a newborn baby that was ready to that needed to be placed. And just so the actual adoption period takes a while, but I was just at the courthouse last year with and was there for the finalization of the adoption of that child.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. Wow. I wish them all the best with the baby and beautiful life and magical moments with each other. I think that's such a beautiful story. And for people who are struggling right now in their lives, and they are going through some dark period of times, what can they do to help themselves right now?
So my best examples are always of what I've done for myself. So I take everything that I've been through and I bring it forward. And so it's about giving yourself time and space, about loving on yourself. And loving on yourself is everything from self care. So even just, showering in the morning and eating healthy and drinking water and moving your body, to having quiet time with yourself, and then adding in making sure you're doing things that you enjoy, that you love. I mean, so many times as adults we get so busy and we forget the things that we really like to do, and have joy and fun doing them. So it's starting out with the self-love, the self-care, and those practices, adding in things that you enjoy, or restarting those things that we enjoy. And then also one thing that I absolutely swear by, which, and that is a morning and evening routine, a ritual or practice, bookends, whatever you want to call it. So, because your night before creates how your morning starts. So, as an example, what I do is I do journaling every night, meditation. I use my essential oils, and and I do some stretches. So that is my evening. So that ends my day. That finalizes my day. And in my journaling, I actually do a quick day review, like what went well, what were challenges, what would I do differently, and then set up for tomorrow. What are my top 3 things that I want to accomplish the next day? And then in the morning, first thing I do is I don't jump out of bed and and I'm gonna get on my phone. I actually lay in bed for a few minutes and I say 3 gratitudes. And then just and do some breathing. And then I'll journal first thing in the morning, just noticing, how sleep went, any dreams that I had, and then just re reconnecting with my intentions for the day and moving into that energy. Again, I use my essential oils. I do some reading, and I get in at least 15 minutes of exercise of some sort. So by doing that, I balance out my day. I create a solid foundation so that whatever comes to me, I can handle better because I'm in a better place physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally to be able to not react to it, but to respond and
Mm.
choose how I respond to it. Because I think our power lies in our ability to choose how what we are going to do when something happens. And yes, we're all going to have the initial what this is happening, and it's an immediate flip the switch, like, okay, this happened. Now, how do I really want to respond to this? I mean, your body is going to have the emotional reaction. That's just bodies. That's just human bodies. But to know that you can immediately move into space, do some deep breathing. I like to do 5 in, hold for 2, and then 7 out, and always exhaling longer than you inhale. And I've actually timed it on my Fitbit and watched that as I breathe, and it's just like a quick 5, in and out. My blood pressure will actually go down. So it causes the fight, flight, freeze emotions that come up when something happened to calm down and give you the ability to respond in a way that you'd rather respond than the reactional, yelling or getting upset or freaking out type of response.
There's something that you said I think it's really, really important is your day begins a night before. And I
Mhm.
cannot agree with that more because I notice it's also when I set my intentions and I start preparing for my day before. And when I have my evening and morning routine, this is where I'm in the flow. And I'm not in reactive mode, like you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I observe what is happening, then I choose how I'm going to react. And that was a huge, really thing to learn for me. And I think that's really, really important that everybody knows like this changed my whole life actually when I started doing that. And I
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to talk a little bit more about if you could go back to the time when you were at that young girl, what would you say to yourself?
Wow. I would sit her down with a coffee and I would be telling her so much stuff. But bottom line, what I would tell her is it's okay to be you. It's okay to be all of you, and not everybody's going to like you. And some people are going to find you to be too much or you shine too bright, and that doesn't mean you dim your light. it just means that they're not your right people, and to keep going and find the people that are your right people, that are your tribe, that are your sisterhood. Because I think the hardest thing has been knowing that I dimmed myself so much when I was little, and then having to come and re it's always been there, but I had to uncover it and bring it forth. And that was a process. And it was an emotional process because there was a lot there.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you so much for being today on our show. I would love to ask you if you could share more about where people can find you and tell us more about that.
Sure. So right now, the best place to find me is on Facebook. So my you can look up Bridget Lonergan Hill or Bridget Hill, and I will show up. You can look. I also have a business page on Facebook, which is Bridget Hill Lionhearted Living, and I do offer anyone a connection and clarity call. So it's a 45-minute free call, and once you find me on Facebook, you can just DM me and message me, and I will usually respond within 24 hours. If I don't, please message me again, because that's rare, and sometimes Facebook doesn't always let me know when people are messaging me. But absolutely connect with me, and get to know yourself, and what the greatness is that you're here to do. And that's one other thing I work with is life purpose statements.
Thank you, Bridget, so much for sharing your inspiring story. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for the work you do and being the bright light. And everybody else who's listening, keep working on yourself because the world does need that love and light inside of you more than ever. I'm sending you lots of love. Bye for now.